September 26, 2025. On military airfields across India, mechanics perform their final checks on a machine that has defined the sound of Indian skies for over 6 decades. The MiG-21, the rocket with wings, the flying coffin, the fishbed that taught generations of pilots both courage and humility, is about to take its final bow. After 62 years of service, the most controversial aircraft in Indian aviation history is coming home to rest. They called it many things, but never ordinary. In the hands of skilled pilots, this delta-winged marvel could climb like a missile, turn like a dancer, and strike fear into the hearts of enemies. During the 1971 war, it helped secure Pakistani skies. In 2019, it allegedly brought down a modern F-16. A David versus Goliath moment that seemed to sum up everything magical about this Cold War relic still punching above its weight. But every legend casts a shadow, and the MiG-21's shadow was dark indeed. Over 400 crashes, more than 200 pilots lost. The statistics tell a story of tragedy that haunted every takeoff, every training mission, every family that watched their son or daughter climb into that narrow cockpit. How could the same machine be both hero and villain, protector and destroyer? To understand this paradox, we must travel back to the 1950s Soviet Union, where engineers Mikoyan and Gurevich faced a simple challenge: build the world's fastest interceptor to stop American spy planes. Speed was everything. Pilot comfort, ease of handling, forgiving flight characteristics, these were luxuries they couldn't afford. The result was pure performance wrapped in aluminum and powered by raw ambition. The engineering was revolutionary for its time. That distinctive shock cone in the nose wasn't just for aesthetics, it was a mechanical marvel that automatically adjusted as the aircraft approached Mach 2, managing supersonic airflow to prevent engine stalls. The delta wing design maximized speed and climb rate. This wasn't just an airplane, it was a flying equation that solved the problem of intercepting high-altitude threats. But equations don't account for human limitations. Landing this beast required approaching the runway at 340 km per hour, fast enough to make even experienced pilots sweat. The controls were purely manual, with no computers to catch mistakes or prevent dangerous maneuvers. One veteran pilot described it perfectly. It was just you, the stick, the rudder pedals, and the hydraulics. Raw flying. This unforgiving nature created an unexpected bond between machine and pilot. Those who mastered the MiG-21 spoke of it with genuine affection, describing its magic and responsiveness. One Indian Air Force veteran used its brutal characteristics to make a modern Eurofighter Typhoon overshoot during training, pulling the nose high, creating massive drag, exploiting the aircraft's edge of stall behavior without any computer assistance. Yet behind the glory lay a systemic failure that cost lives for decades. The tragedy wasn't the aircraft itself, it was how India was forced to use it. Without a proper advanced jet trainer, rookie pilots graduated from slow, forgiving aircraft directly to the Mach 2 MiG-21. It was like learning to drive on a Formula 1 car, and the results were predictably catastrophic. Committees identified this problem as early as 1982. They recommended aircraft like the British Hawk or Franco-German Alpha Jet for training. But bureaucratic delays, budget constraints and procurement battles meant it took 25 years, a full generation, to actually acquire proper training aircraft. During those lost decades, the MiG-21 was forced to play teacher to nervous students, a role it was never designed for. The irony is bitter when you consider how India acquired the MiG-21 in the first place. After President Kennedy's assassination in 1963, American military aid to India effectively disappeared. The Soviet Union stepped into that void, offering not just aircraft, but technology transfer, license production, and a relationship that would define Indian defense procurement for generations. This dependency created both opportunities and vulnerabilities. HAL produced over 650 MiG-21s under license, developing manufacturing capabilities and technical expertise. But it also locked India into Soviet-era technology even as neighbors acquired more modern Western fighters. The backbone that provided strength also created brittleness. Today, as the last MiG-21 squadron prepares for retirement, the Indian Air Force faces a crisis decades in the making. With just 29 operational squadrons against a sanctioned strength of 42, India's skies are more vulnerable than they have been in generations. The machine that filled the gaps for 60 years is leaving behind a gap that threatens national security itself. The designated successor carries the hopes of a nation seeking self-reliance. The Tejas light combat aircraft represents everything the MiG-21 wasn't. Indigenous design, modern fly-by-wire systems, composite construction, and safety features that would have saved countless lives in earlier decades. But the journey from concept to reality has been anything but simple. The Tejas program began in 1984, took its first flight in 2001, and formed its first squadron in 2016. 32 years from drawing board to operational service, a timeline that reveals the enormous complexity of building fighter aircraft from scratch. The MiG-21 wasn't just bought, it was inherited from a superpowers aerospace industry built over decades. Even today, the Tejas faces the same demons that have haunted Indian aviation since independence. Engine development. The indigenous Kaveri engine program, started in 1986, couldn't deliver the power-to-weight ratio needed for a modern fighter. Like the HF-24 Marut, before it, Indian engineering prowess was constrained by propulsion limitations. The solution was pragmatic but symbolically painful, importing American GE F404 engines for an indigenous fighter. Recent deliveries of the more powerful F404 IN-20 engines signal progress, but also continued dependence on foreign technology for the most critical component of any fighter aircraft. The Tejas Mark 1A represents a quantum leap in capability compared to the MiG-21. Digital fly-by-wire prevents the kind of pilot errors that proved fatal in manual aircraft. Composite materials reduce radar signature to 0.5 square meter, making it nearly invisible compared to the all-metal MiG-21. At $74 million per aircraft, it's also significantly cheaper than high-end imports. But capability means nothing without numbers, and numbers require production capacity. The Indian Air Force needs 35 to 40 new fighters annually just to maintain current strength, let alone reach authorized levels. Even with orders for over 180 Tejas Mark 1A, HAL production lines aren't yet hitting those targets. Time remains the scarcest resource. This production challenge forces difficult strategic choices. Should India prioritize mass production of cost-effective indigenous aircraft like the Tejas, accepting some capability limitations for the sake of numbers? Or should it focus on acquiring cutting-edge imported fighters like the Rafale, ensuring technological superiority even if squadron numbers remain low? Quantity versus quality, the eternal military dilemma. As the last MiG-21 touches down for the final time, it carries with it the dreams, tragedies and lessons of an entire era. This Cold War relic taught India that imported solutions come with hidden costs, not just in money, but in dependence, vulnerability, and lives lost to unsuitable applications. The future belongs to the Tejas, the AMCA, and aircraft yet to be imagined, but their success will be measured not just in technical specifications or combat victories, but in whether they can fill the sky with enough wings to keep a nation safe. That's all for today on UPSCwise. If you found this video helpful, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to grab the PDF notes on my Telegram, link in the description. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving closer to your IAS dream. Jai Hind.